Ever get that feeling like someone you love just vanished? You know, that fear. And then, well, imagine, like, the worst possible outcome on top of that.
Yeah.
It's just awful. Like what happened with Hana Kobayashi, you know?
Oh, right. The young woman who disappeared from LAX.
Yeah, tragic. And today, we're going deep, real deep into a bunch of these, well, crime stories. They're all different, but there's a lot of common threads there.
Yep.
Loss, justice, trying to make sense of things you just don't want to believe.
It's like, how do people make the choices they do? And, what's society's role in all this?
Right. So we've got this guy faked his own death, a college student who drowned, and then, of course, Hana Kobayashi. We're going to try to untangle it all.
Should be interesting.
Yeah, no kidding. So let's start with this Wisconsin guy, Ryan Borgward. Everyone's talking about it. Disappeared, presumed drowned. But guess what?
He's alive.
Alive and kicking. In Eastern Europe, no less. It's not just surviving. It's straight up deception.
And the police have said he wasn't in any danger before he vanished, so it wasn't self-defense or anything.
Makes you wonder, right? I mean, the guy dumped his phone in a lake, made it look like a kayaking accident. His family, his whole community thought he was gone.
And now he's saying personal issues. A bit vague, don't you think?
Totally vague. What personal issues make you do that? Money problems.
Yeah.
Secret affair. Trying to run away from, I don't know, life itself.
Who knows? The police aren't saying much, probably to, protect the family and maybe for legal reasons too.
Yeah, makes sense. But they're talking to him. Right.
Yeah.
Emailing back and forth.
So they say. And apparently he says he regrets it, but he's still over there in Europe.
Doesn't want to face the music, huh? Think about the cost to the police, all that searching.
Yeah.
And his family, the pain he caused.
His kids thought he was dead. Now they find out he chose to leave. That's rough.
Really makes you think. Sometimes the biggest mystery isn't who did it, but why.
Yeah, the human mind is a complicated thing.
Now, let's switch gears to something that could happen anywhere. Dartmouth. A college kid drowns. It brings up all these questions about, like, responsibility, accountability.
Right. 2 students are facing charges, providing alcohol to a minor. Their classmate, Juan Zhen, drowned in the river after a party.
And Juan, he couldn't even swim. Bright kid, studying biomedical engineering, doing research on COVID vaccine antibodies, no less. Such a waste.
It makes you think about underage drinking and, well, hazing. It's a problem on a lot of campuses.
Has it been prevented? Were there, like, red flags people missed? Did the college, I don't know, could they have done more?
They've taken some steps since then, but some people are saying it's not enough. Like, they're just putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem.
Yeah, how much is the college responsible for what students do? Especially with underage drinking, risky behavior, all that?
It's tough. No easy answers. But one thing's for sure. We need to do more than just react after something terrible happens.
Absolutely. Create a culture where it doesn't happen in the first place.
Right. Where students make good choices and the college puts safety first. Always.
It's like, sometimes those individual choices bump up against these big system problems. And that's what really gets me about Alina Tonis's case up in Alaska. So sad.
16 years old, found dead on a trail. The autopsy didn't show any, obvious injuries. But the police, they think it's suspicious.
Yeah, they're waiting on toxicology reports and all that. But we know she had some issues, mental health and drugs.
And her family, they're saying the system failed her. Not enough places for young people to get help, especially with addiction.
Makes you wonder, right? Could things have been different for Alina? I mean, if there were better resources, it's a question that it sticks with you, especially with what happened to Hana Kobayashi and her family.
Hannah's case is still a puzzle. LAX airport, gone without a trace. And those texts she sent before she vanished, talking about identity theft, money troubles, it's like, was she in trouble? Was someone, taking advantage of her?
And her father, Ryan. He was searching for her nonstop. And then, well, he took his own life. Right there at LAX in a parking structure. Just adds another layer of tragedy to the whole thing.
Just shows you the emotional toll of searching for someone you love who's missing. We need more support for families in these situations. And mental health resources, we just don't talk about it enough.
It's like crime. It doesn't just hurt the victim, the families, friends, everyone's affected.
And when there are no answers, like with Hannah, it's even harder. They're left with so many questions and the pain just doesn't go away.
Speaking of unanswered questions, this case in Tennessee, this 15-year-old kid, Malachi Harris, charged with killing 13-year-old Savannah Copeland. It reminds me of that other case, Aiden Fucci in Florida. Another teen killing a classmate.
Yeah, both cases, young victims, brutal violence, and no clear motive. Savannah was a cheerleader, full of life, stabbed to death on a trail. It's shaken the whole community.
Makes you think, what's going on with these young people? Are we missing something? Mental health issues. Do they even understand the consequences of what they're doing? We need to be asking these questions.
Absolutely. Every case is different, but we have to look for patterns, try to figure out what's driving this youth violence.
Yeah.
We need more awareness, more open communication. We need to make sure these kids feel supported, that they know how to deal with their emotions in a healthy way.
It's not about blaming anyone. It's about understanding that these things happen for a reason. There's individual factors, societal influences. It's complicated.
And that leads us to a case that really shows how individual choices and these big systemic problems can, collide. The safe haven baby boxes, they're supposed to be a last resort for mothers in crisis. But this case in Idaho, Angela Newberry, it shows that sometimes it's not that simple.
18 years old, she put her dead baby in one of those boxes. They're meant for, giving up a baby safely and anonymously. But in this case, well, it makes you wonder if the system worked the way it's supposed to.
She hid her pregnancy, had the baby at home, and then, well, the baby died. And she went online and looked up what would happen if she put a dead baby in the box. It seems like she didn't really understand how those laws are meant to be used.
Just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Shows you how desperate some mothers are when they have an unplanned pregnancy. It makes you think, what could have helped Angela? Did she even know what help was out there? Was she, I don't know, too scared to ask?
It's a good question. It's not enough to just have these drop-off boxes. We need real support for these women. Healthcare, counseling, safe places to live, things like that.
It's about understanding, right, that these situations, they're not always so simple. There's pressure from society, personal struggles. It's complicated.
Yeah, exactly. And it all goes back to what we were talking about earlier, with Ryan Borgward, the guy who faked his death. It was a crazy story, but it really shows how important mental health is, how much pressure people feel from society, and what can happen when someone feels trapped.
I mean, think about it. The police said he wasn't in any real danger before he disappeared. He didn't have to do that. But something made him go to all that trouble, stage that whole kayaking accident, make everyone think he was dead.
It's hard to imagine what would drive someone to that point. Maybe it was money, maybe a secret relationship, maybe he just couldn't take it anymore. We might never know for sure.
But it makes you wonder, are we doing enough to help people before they get to that point? Are there enough resources for mental health? Are people afraid to ask for help?
Big questions for sure. Borgward's case, it might be unusual, but it shows something that happens a lot. People feel overwhelmed, like there's no other way out.
And his actions, they had consequences. Not just for him, but for his family, the community, the police who spent all that time searching for him. It's a good reminder that our choices matter.
No doubt about it. So we've covered a lot today, lots of different cases, all pretty heavy stuff. What do you think people should take away from all this?
I think the biggest thing is, remembering that there's a person behind every story, every headline. We need to try to understand what they're going through, have some empathy.
Trying to set it better myself. It's not just about the facts of the case, the legal stuff, it's about people. And if we try to understand their stories, why they did what they did, maybe we can start to make things better.
Well said. So, that's another deep dive done. We'll be back next week with more stories, more things to think about. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep those brains working.